Well, hello guys, David Vos here again. Another beautiful day here in Alabama. Cloudy and cool. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, take a look at this, guys. I found something on this guy, Braun. We were talking about him in regards to Project Paperclip. Now, we've talked about this before, and I don't think a lot of you maybe didn't catch that because we've done so many videos and there's all these little points and what I mean by points is that there's so many facts. There are facts. You're not going to hear the truth from the world because they're creating an illusion around us. They've got some sort of infrastructure around us that is right in plain sight, but it's just some sort of weird game. Somehow or another, we're not able to see it because they've told us, don't look. You're not allowed to see what you're seeing. I experienced that as a Jehovah's Witness. You could see the world all around you, but you weren't a part of it. You felt connected to the organization and what they believed. So it was kind of like being in a little family, and you stick up with your family. When you see your mother, your father, your brother, they can do nothing wrong. The neighbors, they're the bad guys. But you never notice that maybe the problem lies with your brother. Well, they got into a fight. Well, you stand up for your brother because that's your brother. And you believe in your brother. Even though somebody else might say, well, your brother actually started the fight. But you're like, nah, my brother wouldn't do that. I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense because it's some sort of psychological thing that we have here whereby while we're living in this world and we want the world to be okay. I mean, we're desperate for the world to be all right because we're in this world. We're part of it. And we can't imagine any other way to exist. I mean, if we're not in the world. Like, I'm going to be living in this world. Therefore, and my mother and father says everything's okay. So I'm going to trust the liars on the television. I'm going to trust the government, even though I see nothing but confusion and anarchy and war and famine and slavery and people dying and all of this. But I trust it because you have no one else to trust. So we have all these facts, but we're not looking at them. We're not paying attention. So what's interesting is that this guy named Braun basically is the person who invented NASA. I mean, NASA wasn't officially created until like 1958 or something. But after World War II, 1945, they started this Project Paperclip. Well, as I pointed out before, the Germans were the ones who were doing the projects. They would have these special projects. They were the ones we weren't even involved. The United States wasn't involved in any world war or anything for years. I mean, we were just going along. We didn't want anything to do with it, supposedly. Well, the American people wouldn't. You've got to promote the idea. You've got to have commercials with sailor and, a Navy guy, and a girl going, oh, I want to be with this man because he's in the army, and make it sound so exciting. And they glorified the military, and they got the news talking about things going on in foreign countries and lying to us and kind of false flags, if you know what I mean, going on. And finally, they caused this thing called Pearl Harbor, which is kind of like the 9/11 of our day, which was probably not even, didn't happen by the Japanese. But that got American people, that got us involved in the war because we're like, all right, now they bombed an American facility. We ain't having this. Now the fight has come to us, and boy, that terrible thing going on over there in Germany and Europe and stuff, we don't want that coming here. So they got public opinion going because of this. Well, in those days, it was the Germans then. But so before we got involved with anything like this, modern times with all the technology and the, this is before the internet and all the things that's going on now. Of course, we're the leaders in all of this. But at that time, Germany for a long time was pretty much the leader in science and everything. That's where we got Nietzsche, right? God is dead. And that's what basically empowered the whole world as we know it. It's not a political world. It's a very religious world. These were Freemasons. These people were like, Germany was hunting for the Holy Grail. They were scouting all around the world looking for this information. They believed in the one world government, but it wasn't like a political thing. It was the Fatherland and the white race and it was eugenics and it was murder and it was what? Well, it goes back to Yahwehism. It goes back to the Old Testament, the chosen people, and genocide to the rest, and slavery to all, and I am God, and there is none else. Get down on your knees and worship me, and give me a sacrifice. I want your firstborn son, Abraham. So this is the way that these people believed. But of course, the rest of the world didn't believe that. They were the Goyim. They were the people that wouldn't know anything about it. They were told to go and wipe out the nations. So they had to go in somehow. Remember, as it was there in the Old Testament, Yahweh would send down lying spirits. There was a scene in the Old Testament where Yahweh is standing in the council, right? He was chairing the God council. And he's like, all right, what do we do, Yahweh? These people aren't going to worship you. They don't like you. And some guy comes in, they call it a deceiver, and an adversary. He comes into the council and he says, listen, Yahweh, I got an idea. I'll go down there and I'll lie to them. And I'll get them to believe in something that's not true. And then we can conquer them and wipe them out. We can accuse them of doing bad things because we'll tempt them to do these bad things. And then we can have it over on them. And once we've debilitated them through their own psyche and their own conscience, right? We'll lie to them. We'll use their weaknesses because most of these people are so stupid. We can probably lie to them and deceive them enough to get them to do whatever we want. And Yahweh said that's a great idea. So that's the way Yahweh's always operated. So these people were doing the same thing. This is an ancient religion. There are two religions in the world. There's the higher priesthood and the lower one. So it all, Israel is all the world, all the nations. And there's the Melchizedek priesthood and the Aaronic priesthood. The Aaronic priesthood is not the real true higher priesthood. It is an appendage to the higher priesthood that Moses created because the people didn't want to receive the mysteries. And later on, Rome wiped out and forbade the mysteries and condemned them and got people to believe. They took over the mystery schools, called it Christianity. Basically, this is what happened. And then convinced Christianity to apostatize and go back to the worship of Yahweh. So they did a switcheroony. And so now the Judeans, their God, Yahweh, was ruling rather than El at Bethel. And the whole world then became unified under the God, the liar, the vengeful deity, the God of wrath, who demanded everybody worship him. And they went and the 10 tribes that worshiped at Bethel, at the house of El, the mysteries, they had the mother, they had the rites of initiation into the higher truths. It was forbidden because they didn't want people to have this knowledge, to partake of the knowledge of good and evil that they might become like God. So they forbade it and said, you will be my slaves, saith Jehovah. So there were these individuals that were scattered into the world. So the 10 tribes, the Israel, they don't know who they are. They're all the nations. And their religions are Buddhism and Hinduism and Mithraism and Zoroastrian. All these other religions came from Shintoism. All of these mystery religions were consolidated by Pythagoras into the later became known after Aristotle and Plato as the Neoplatonists. They came on down through that branch of the mystery schools, because Plato went down into Egypt, and he went to Persia, and he went to India, and he got all of the mysteries and put them, all of their wisdom, into one. However, the true shamans of the high priesthood never gave Pythagoras all the facts and all the wisdom. So to this day, they're trying to determine the ancient mysteries, but they've never really understood them. But they thought they understood them, and they created a government. Plato wrote a book called Plato's Republic. It was a plan to take over the world, and they said, we will tell them mysteries, and we will lie to them, and we'll give them little fairy tales, but the fairy tales will never will basically have truths in it for the ones who understand the truth. You know, for the higher elite, they'll get it. We'll send them to higher education. They'll know what we're talking about. And we'll give them the initiation into the mystery so they can become like God themselves and know that this world is just an illusion. But the peasants will never wake up and never understand. They'll never be allowed to eat the proper food to nourish their mind, the herbs that the Lord gave them. So they forbid the sacrament to eat or partake of the body and blood of the Lord, and the Lord is in all, through all, and above all. So the divine being is in everything. We need to have communion with nature and partake of her fruit, but they forbade it. So there was a group of individuals then that had some of these mysteries they were trying to understand. Well, they got very confused because they read about good and evil, and they began to think then that there were really two equal gods, one of good and one of evil, and they thought that life was just a game. They really couldn't understand these mysteries. It's like Simon Magus, who had a lot of knowledge, who was the head of a mystery school, but he didn't have the power, and he needed the power. So he offered money to get the power from Peter. And Peter said, you can't have it. You can't get it with money. You people, these people, they're very wise. They might even be able to create computers and things. They have a lot of technological wisdom, advanced in many ways, that they've been learning and learning and learning. They want the power to become like God. Well, they got all the information, how things work, or they're trying to learn it anyway. But what they never will understand is that it can't be done just with knowledge. You must have also love, the kind of energy that makes one like God is to know the difference between good and evil. It's not just to know good and evil. It's not just to believe that evil is equal to good. That's not right. They're lost in this maze of hate. See, yeah, they're gaining power over us, and that's what they want, pleasure. But their soul becomes sick. Their bodies get decrepit and old. Look at Bill Gates, a wrinkly old guy. These guys aren't, Trump doesn't look like he's going to live forever. None of these guys have found the key. But they believe that this power is the key. Forget the wisdom. Forget the love. If they had enough power, if they had enough knowledge, they could create a body that would never die. See, they could bypass the laws of the supreme deity, and you don't have to use love. We can hurt other people and get away with it. See, they want the power so badly, they've forgotten about the fact that no one will see unto the Father unless they see the Christ. And you can't see the Christ because he's not visible except in you. And you have to be able to close your eyes and stop being afraid and anxious and full of hate and vengeance to be able to even see the truth. And they can't never do that because they're so bound up with all of this lust. But they're going and they think they're going to achieve this great thing and defy God and create their own new world order. So in this process, the Germans had these projects. They were, you see, a lot of people believe that human beings are the one who invented all this advanced technology. And that's absolutely not true. There's nobody on the earth, not one person. You couldn't go to anyone, anywhere. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, none of these people know anything, probably less than what I know, about how science exists, really works and stuff. How things function, why the computer comes on and tells us answers. It's highly technical knowledge that no human on earth really understands. It was given to them by demons. John Dee and Edward Kelly opened up the bottomless pit and let a few, they couldn't come out themselves. They were bound. But Revelation says not until a certain point, the appointed time, that the angels will come down and untie the angels that are bound. And then they'll come up out of the bottomless pit, all the hordes and their armies. These are the 4 demonic angels in charge of the demonic armies that are bound in hell. And when they come out, it's going to be a free-for-all orgy of evil because of the apostasy. But until then, they're bound and they can't come out. So John Dee went over there and Edgar Kelly, and they went and they looked in, they peered in by going into these trance states where they're out of their physical body, not aware of this conscious world, where their mind can be aware of higher, more subtle frequencies. Now, in that state, which is what herbs will do for you, you'll be able to leave your body. The angels will come and guide you to higher consciousness. But in this state, where they're using chemicals and manipulation, and sometimes rather than just natural living and good life and living and loving one another and prayer and fasting, this kind of thing, they use other means. They'll cut their body, they'll bang their head up against the wall, they'll sit in a trance, lighting candles and sacrificing babies to, somehow they'll work up the evil within their mind, the negativity, and put an aura of, they'll draw a circle around themselves in a pentagram, which means nothing. It's just upside down evil. It's just showing and proving to the demonic world that this person has begged for their help, sold their soul. They have to literally sell their soul. And then the demons are allowed to enter because they ask for it. They know willingly when they do this that they're seeking power regardless of love. They're seeking power regardless of their soul. Most people, the devil cannot do that to them because the Lord has them and protects them and guides them, and their angels always appear before my Father in heaven, Jesus said. But there are those who have forfeited that protection. Don't worry, friends. You can't forfeit that protection if you don't want to. No amount of things you might have said or done, or, oops, I hope I didn't sin so bad. No, you can't. The Lord loves you. You have to willingly reject the Lord and walk away. You have to do it not just like a slip of the tongue. You have to make a decision and follow after the devil. Remember the 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord was tempted himself by Satan. But he overcame it. And afterwards, what happened? The angels began to come and minister unto him. And that can happen for anyone who is willing to reject the devil. So what happens is you partake of these herbs and you leave your body. Like the Apostle Paul said, he was out of the body. 14 years ago, he knew a man that went unto paradise, under the third heaven, out of the body. He says but not before he went to and was initiated and learned what? What did he learn? Words or teachings that was forbidden to speak to anyone. Paul says, I heard the words that was forbidden that a man should speak or tell anyone else. And those were the answer to the mystery, which is to partake of the herb that gets your body in a state or a trance where you leave your body and the angels initiate you into higher consciousness, where you overcome your fears of death and begin to remember your past lives, and you never come back. Well, the devil knows all this, and he knows that he doesn't want anyone to partake of this, because then they'll become like God and they will not be able to be his subject and come back into the world and be their slaves. So they got to stop everybody. So they make it a worldwide policy. It's forbidden to partake of these drugs. But since they know how important these drugs are and how it works, they say, well, we use them for ourselves. So they make their own little concoction, chemicals that are not safe, that don't just allow a person to be in a tranquil state where they can reach under the phone. They know things about your body. They know how to twist things and make it go awry, give you anxiety and grief, and put you in a trance where your mind can't think properly and at peace. And then they come in and with stress and pain and mind programming to look for the wrong things. They use this method, MK Ultra mind control, to take a person into hell and make him subject to hell so that he comes back as a soldier for Satan. And they've lost their mind and their soul. And they use these same techniques basically on the populace. You know, we've got mesmerizing songs and propaganda and pain. All the world, a lot of people are running around in pain. You see people on these weird chemical drugs in the streets, and they're twitching and flapping around. This is a mind control experiment to keep human beings from their divine right, because these people were so powerful, human beings, that we were like the divine being. Look, for thousands of years, Satan couldn't destroy us. But one by one, slowly, he don't care if it takes thousands of years trying to kill us. And eventually he believes he can destroy us all. But the Lord knows that we are his children. We have the divine spark, and you cannot take that from us. But they're continuing to try because they've gotten into their ignorance. They begin to believe their own lies because they've got no other choice. They know the Lord's coming to torture them. And that just means, you know, like back in the ancient times when they say torture, where'd that word come from, that whole scenario? Well, that meant the torture racks. And where were those? Down in the dungeon, which means you were imprisoned. You were under an inquisition. They would use torture and pain to get something out of you, to get you to recant, or to get information from you. And so torture simply means, it can mean several things. It can mean to repent, to penitence, and like, purgatory. It's not permanent. But you see, our Father in heaven doesn't use such mechanisms to get people to become slaves, to bow to this God, to this world. Because all that's going to do is get you to come back over and over again and obey this God of this world, which means die. See, obedience to this deity means obedience to your own will, your own freedom. You must die. So Jesus willingly submitted to it and came here and physically died. But when he went into that place of hell, he overcame the devil and he overcame death. And so now all of us, that experience, that it was in Christ, in his DNA, that is something that happened. And we can access that by sharing and partaking of his flesh, which is this world we live in. Because you see, we're all creators, the creators of this world. We were all in Christ from the founding of the world. And when we wake up to the higher consciousness, we realize that it's already been done for us. All we have to do is receive it. But the wicked ones, they'll never see it. They'll never see the light because they're blinded by the darkness. Because the God of this world is blinding the minds of the unbelievers. Eventually, one day, every eye will see and every knee shall bend. But that's going to take a while because the rest of the dead didn't come to life until 1,000 years were over. So there is a harvest and there is a first fruits. And those who are awakening now are the first fruits. These other idiots are perhaps they chose this thing, before they came here. They volunteered to be the bad guy. But once they come into this world, they are under a delusion. They don't know what they're doing. Everyone has a destiny, and we're all written in the book of life, or the book of destiny. We all fulfill our destinies. If we make a mistake and don't fulfill our destiny, then we'll come back until we do. And many of these individuals, their destiny is to play the joker. So they were the ones, these evil people that were receiving messages from the devil. This is how we have this technology we have today. Tesla, as a lot of people are running around talking about Tesla being the most amazing man, and he was a prophet and so forth. Look, a lot of these supposed prophets were prophets of Satan, prophets of Yahweh, sending forth lying spirits. And the pen of the scribe, you think you have Torah, Jeremiah 8:8, you think you have Torah, but you have the lying pen of the scribe. So there is the Old Testament and all of the prophecies of Yahweh. They're definitely going to be fulfilled, but not in any of our lives because we have followed the Lord. But for those who choose that path, all of those prophecies will be fulfilled. Death and destruction and evil. And they're following after the god of blindness and darkness until they finally wake up. But, so the German people had nothing to do with what was going on. There were certain scientists that were sort of bloodlines to the demonic hordes or the giants, because the tribe of Dan had a pact up on Mount Hermon with the giants. And they weren't physical beings at that time. They were the Rephaim. The Rephaim are the dead of giants. When the giants died, they couldn't go to heaven. They weren't human. So they were locked away in Tartarus. The only way you could communicate with them was through spirit. So John Dee went and Edward Kelly talked to the demons, and they created a plan. And they started telling them, I want prophets. I want people I can talk to, the devil said. And you bring them over here, and if they can be obedient and prove their obedience, cut themselves and wail and be my servants and I'll give them great fame and power. And I'll pretend, and if they want to believe it's the proper path, that they're good people, they can believe that. Just know that you're worshiping God. I am God and there is none else. And they begin to believe this. And they think that there's some merit to being a slave and torturing their bodies and killing and mass murdering the world, because after all, they're all evil and they deserve it. Somehow it's the plan of the Lord and coming in his wrath. And they're going to sit on great thrones and rule the world. So the technology came from the demons, not from humans. Bill Gates hasn't a clue. Bill Gates' mom sat on the board of the IBM. And IBM was a project of Germany. They helped Hitler in Poland during World War II. They're a Nazi organization. So Elon Musk is related to von Braun. Von Braun was one of those people brought over in Project Paperclip. Like I said, once we won the war in 1945, all the projects became American projects. Now it's Project Paperclip. And it was being put out there and done and accomplished by the United States. Immediately, look in history. All the projects and operations were being done by the Germans. And then, boom, 1945, it all switched to American projects and operations. And we had Project Mockingbird, which was the news agencies that tell us the news every day, the propaganda. That's Project Mockingbird. So, if you take a look at that picture right there, that's Werner von Braun. Does he look a little bit like Elon Musk? I think he does. Let me show you something here. Did von Braun prophesy Elon Musk colonizing Mars? Did a book written more than 70 years ago by American space pioneer Dr. Werner von Braun predict that a man called Elon would lead a 10-man government of Mars colonies? This story may not have received much attention, except that billionaire Elon Musk is stepping out and being very public about his desire to colonize other planets, and has spoken specifically of Mars. The book's prediction was discovered a few years ago, but has resurfaced on social media. See, I question these books. We talked about the book that said that Trump would be the last president, supposedly written in 1800. Now that one, there is no proof that book was actually published in 1800. It wasn't published as far as we know. They claim it was written, but it wasn't published. Well, I don't know the exact date, but it was supposedly, you can only prove that it has been in print very recently. So that may be a big hoax about Trump. But this one, I wasn't sure. And it says here that Dr. von Braun authored a book in 1948 while he was at Fort Bliss, Texas, called Mars Project, because he's German, Bavarian. The science fiction novel was published in German 3 years after Dr. von Braun relocated to Huntsville. The book was published in English by the University of Illinois Press 1953, entitled The Mars Project. So evidently this is a real book and was published in 1953. Well, how would this guy, von Braun, be able to prophesy that somebody would go to Mars and colonize Mars named Elon? Maybe if he had a child and told his child to have a child and then name that child Elon. And maybe he inherited this business of rocket travel from his grandfather. I think so. Now, I'm going to do some research, and if I can find proof of that, I'll let you guys know. But as of right now, they're not wanting to tell us a whole lot about Elon Musk's dad's dad. So it's difficult to know. It may have been a brother or an uncle. They can hide things, they can change names, but I'm telling you, there's no question in my mind that man is related to that man. And that's how they prophesied. Because von Braun was the one who created NASA. Interesting, now we've got a man that looks just like him that was prophesied by that man. Even his name was known. They look to me identical. They have the same nose, the same jaw, the same hair and everything. And this guy's the creator of SpaceX. And also seemingly taking over the Tesla name. And we were talking about Tesla. We venerate and adore people like Tesla. They must have been a prophet. But like I said, they were getting direct channeling from Satan. Now some of them may not have known it. Tesla might not have realized from whence he was getting this information. But if you're not truly seeking the Lord and have full of love, maybe Tesla wanted so badly to come up with these truths that he thought that these thoughts in his head were from the Lord. Maybe he knew exactly what he was doing. I don't know. But I do know that the information that Tesla received did not come from human wisdom. So Tesla is connected to this man named Elon as well. Dr. von Braun was one of the most influential engineers of the 20th century and served as the first director of Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville. He was a key figure in the development of the American space program, which led to the historic accomplishment of landing humans on the moon. Von Braun also envisioned a manned trip to Mars following the excursion to the moon. His book was highly technical in nature and provided the engineering basis for establishing an enormous scientific expedition that involved 10 spacecraft with 70 crew members that would return after spending 443 days on Mars before the trip back to Earth. You see, guys, what person could invent any of this stuff? They claim Tesla invented, you're right? These are stories that are just, because mankind would wonder, how did we get all this information? Well, some humans must be smart. They're geniuses. We'll create this guy named Tesla. Maybe the devil created it, this illusion, as some smart guy. Maybe there was no Tesla. Maybe it's just a code name. So they don't want us to know how they got this information. We know how they got it. Go read the story of John Dee and Edward Kelly. They brought up the demons, at least their voices, and they instructed them how to build the one world government. And every piece along the way was given to them in this world by Satan. Tesla did not get this from his own higher consciousness. He got this from his lower consciousness. He got this from the demons. So the book included 48 chapters describing in highly technical language the construction of 3-stage ferry vessels, spaceships, landing boats, ferry flights, and general logistics. The book included 48 chapters describing in highly technical language the construction of 3-stage The book included 48 chapters describing in highly technical language the construction of 3-stage ferry vessels, spaceships, landing boats, ferry flights, and general logistics. Isn't that interesting? Ferry, F-E-R-R-Y, which is a boat, right? But it sounds like when you say that you're talking about imaginary ferry flights, which makes more sense. General logistics, power plant performance, and interplanetary radio communication. In the late 1950s, a syndicated Sunday magazine supplement published excerpts from Mars Project. This magazine focused on Dr. von Braun's philosophies on spaceflight and the future of humanity rather than the technical details of traveling to Mars. Do you really believe this guy invented space travel? They're from Bavaria, someplace Nietzsche, where God is dead, right? Karl Marx, Einstein come from the Wilhelm Institute. They took over the science of the world. They became the rationalists. They created Monsanto. They created the pharmaceutical companies. They created the chemical companies, DuPont. All this stuff came from there. And what were they doing? Would you go back in history and find out what Hitler was trying to do with all these chemicals? It was called eugenics. And over here we have somebody who was a part of the eugenics in Germany, came over here to America and started what we call Planned Parenthood. Enough said. I can't say anymore. So in 2006, the science fiction novel from Dr. von Braun from 1948, which had gone unpublished, was released by a Canadian publisher of space-related historical science fiction as Project Mars, a Technical Tale. Chapter 24 of this science fiction work is titled How Mars is Governed. In one passage of that chapter, the book states the Martian government was directed by 10 men, the leader of whom was selected by universal suffrage for 5 years and had the title of Elon. 2 houses of parliament enacted the laws to be administered by Elon and his cabinet. The upper house was called the Council of the Elders and contained 60 people who were named to those positions for life by Elon. This is very, very close to the administration of the government of mankind on earth. There were 12 and one who was in charge of the council of the round table, and they had 72 that were members of the Senate. This is what every government on earth, Rome, the Judean government was ruled by the Sanhedrin, which was a 72-member body. Here we're talking about 60. This is still a type of this type of government that's being explained here. So, and this is fictional, right? This is on Mars. But what they're doing is talking about a coming new world order when they know, because it is in history, that the world will be destroyed. And it will be like a hell to live on. And they will find other places in nearby regions of this world to try to survive because of the war that darkness has with light. This is all prophesied in the Bible. In the author's preface to this book, written by Dr. von Braun, he states the purpose of the publication is to simulate interest in space travel. 70 years later, Elon Musk, 50, is capturing a lot of interest for space travel and saying he is open about his wish to explore other worlds, tweeting recently that he wants to make humanity a multi-planet species. Can you explain how a man, just maybe, I don't know how many years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, probably more like about 10 years ago, had really very little money? He was just some little guy that people were talking about, maybe moving up, with a little money, had a few million. He started a company called PayPal and a couple other things, and it went big and he became a millionaire, and then he used that money to start Tesla or whatever. Well, we're told that it's just some coincidence or the man's a genius or he's so smart. Well, yeah, no, his daddy's von Braun. They run the world. Of course he came over here. So did Hitler. Hitler was seen in Argentina for years. They had a space station. These Germans took their best stuff and went to Antarctic. And there's a base down there. Go ask Admiral Byrd what he saw when he went down there. So they had men incognito. I mean, yeah, people in our military flew down there, didn't know what was down there. But there are people high up in our military that do know. People at Area 51 that do know what's going on. These aren't really aliens at all. They're demonically controlled by Satan himself. They're not some aliens living on some other planet. These are satanic beings from Satan that are communicating with humans. They've chosen a whole group of people to operate through, like Judas who betrayed Christ. And it says Satan entered into him and he went and did what he was going to do. But it is destined. But woe unto the one who's going to do it. Jesus said, I have not lost one of my children, not one, except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. So, this Elon is the heir apparent to the von Braun. They look alike, so we can only speculate. Elon, or I should say, von Braun, was a scientist who basically created NASA, who was a student of Aleister Crowley, who was the great evil beast man, who asked the devil to come into him, who took heroin and did, satanic rites and rituals, probably sacrificed babies and had sexual orgy rites and so forth, wicked evil rites and blood, drinking and whatever they might have been doing. Not for the intention to achieve love and higher consciousness and bliss and help their fellow man. But with all their heart, they sought the devil. They sought power on this earth. They wanted to open up the portals of the world to the demons. And this is what their goal was. This is what CERN is all about. So yeah, John Dee and Edward Kelly started it by listening to the demons in a very profound way and organizing it on a scale that had never been seen, called the Freemasons. And these individuals and Illuminati individuals around the world, in 1776, Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati, they used the Jesuit priests to get into the Catholic Church. They control every church, the Protestants, all of them, the governments, the businesses. And NASA, they created specifically with their right-hand men, the ones that were the nexus of that power, right? The heads of the beast that speak to cause death to all those who would not worship. These people that had the mouths of blasphemy were individuals that allowed themselves, like Aleister Crowley, to receive by selling their soul. And their children then probably had to go through some sort of decision themselves. I don't believe that just because they birthed children, but I think a lot of these covenants are made before they even come to the earth. Perhaps there are certain children that have made a covenant before they've even come to the world, to come into the world to become liars and deceivers. Perhaps they were deceived before they came. Maybe they made the choice. But we know that individuals in this world, that have some sort of blood tie to Satan and the giants, the Nephilim, and are filled with the spirits of the Rephaim. They can't come out of the bottomless pit until it's time, till the angels untie them, which is the time of judgment. They're only allowed to come out in a great orgy of evil to gather their forces for the great war, because they're trying to steal the hearts of men. So the Lord has to allow them to be exposed for the revealing of the man of destruction, for the revelation to the world of this evil. And the Lord knows that as his children, we will be able to see, and they will be exposed. And we will not have any excuse at that point. At that point of all this evolution and all these thousands of years that mankind has gone along, we've been deceived, we've had problems, we've made mistakes. The Lord has been there with us all the way through, knowing we weren't yet ready. We were just children. Now we have grown to a certain maturity, and it's time that there will be a decision. It's called in Greek the crises, and it's translated the judgment. It's a crisis because you have to make a decision. And so that's what the root of that word judgment means in Greek, crises. It means we make a critical decision. The whole world is coming to this place. And we see then that these individuals like von Braun, who's imitating Tesla, that got some knowledge, that created electric cars and internets and CERNs where they made the internet. And all this is a plot to what opened the portals of hell. The judgment has arrived. The Euphrates rivers dried up, literally, as the Bible said, to make way for the kings of the east and the great war. The wrath of God is coming, friends. And it's no coincidence that Elon Musk has become a billionaire. I mean, he went from 1 billion to 10 billion pretty quick, but man, from about 100 billion to 300 billion, that was quick. And it's not even started yet. All the car companies of the world have stopped making cars. He's making electric cars. He's the only man doing that, basically, making all these. Yeah, I know Volkswagen's got an electric car and Ford's got one, but they're way behind. They're primarily trying to make gas cars. Well, they just this year stopped. I think Ford has one vehicle left that they're still making with gas. So Elon Musk is going to be much, much more wealthy than this in just a few years. Probably a trillionaire by the end of the decade, if the world were to go on that long. He is definitely the heir apparent to the Germanic Bavarian Illuminati to be in that position. They chose Bill Gates, a young man before that, to get the computer thing going around, the Microsoft or the nanotechnology, right, to begin to set the stage for what today is biotech. And now we have Elon Musk coming along telling us we're going to get a Neuralink. You see, they can't take anyone to Mars. It's just like the movie Avatar. You don't go there in actuality. You go there in an avatar. It's a Neuralink. There is no outer space. We're in a hologram. And they know it. This is a simulation that they have made. We're living in. And we're trapped here. And everything around us is a simulation, is a lie, is a hoax. And the game is, you got to wake up. Because this is evil. You must reject the kingdom of Satan. That is what we have to do. That is why we're here. There are a few people that have divine hearts and golden eyes that can see. And they look, it's kind of like that movie, you know, remember that movie? I don't even remember the name of it, where the guy was looking and he would put the glasses on and it would, the money would say, you know, worship the devil or something, or you know, worship money. Right? And then you take off the glasses just like a dollar bill. He put the glasses on and the news was skeletons talking about death and torture and hate and evil. He pull off the glasses and some nice guys, you know, suit and tie on a morning show, right? Telling us the weather. Some people can't see it. We're surrounded by evil. And everything is evil. The doctors are evil. The lawyers are evil. The politicians are evil. They work for the devil. Stop trying to resurrect America and make it better again, because it can't be made better again. This world must go. We must get out of this world. Be no part of it. We need to open our eyes and awaken unto the Christ in us. And the only way you can do that is by partaking of the sacrament, which is the holy herb. Because once your consciousness expands and you see who you really are and this illusion for what it is, you'll never ever want to come back. And this is what they're trying desperately to stop you from doing. Musk was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Really? If Biden hates this guy so bad, why are they making him Person of the Year? How come he's still making billions and billions and billions of dollars? I'll show you why. Take a look at this. Biden is building on the Abraham Accords, part of Trump's legacy in the Middle East. You see, the good cop, bad cop is only goes so far. Their goal, both sides have one goal, and that is the one world government. So Biden's all in on the Abrahamic Accords. Well, what's that all about? President Biden travels to Israel and Saudi Arabia next week. His first trip to the Middle East since entering the White House. And while the president has been eager to criticize a range of the predecessor's policies, he is fully embracing one key pillar of Donald Trump's Middle East policy, the Abraham Accords. Those deals were brokered by the Trump White House in 2020 to normalize relations between Israel and a number of Arab countries, including Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Morocco. It was, I think there's 6 nations now involved in this. It was a huge rupture from recent history in which Arab nations had made it clear they would not negotiate with Israel until Palestinians received an independent state of their own. It's a tool for promoting stability in the region. Deepen Israel's integration into the region, which I think we're going to be able to do. And good for Israel security. This is all about Israel and the one world government. And they just about have peace now. Well, of course, they will never have peace. The Bible says they'll declare peace and security, and there'll be this sudden destruction. I believe Trump will become president, and there will be a peace agreement, but there will be a war that they'll be calling like Third World War. It'll be raging. Trump will be blaming it on Biden because, you see, that war has purpose. Out of ashes shall come forth their new world order, out of the ashes of the old order. So they want to destroy. They'll use this supposed World War III to destroy any of the people of the world they don't like, cause famine, death, destruction. They're going to depopulate the world. They think they're going into a new world order, and according to their God, that's what they're going to do. And according to the Bible, we're no part of this world. We're leaving as Christians. We're going to go and be with the Lord, that where He is, we may be also. So I think there's a reason then why Biden is promoting Elon. I think Elon, it's very obvious that supposedly Elon's trying to side with Trump. I think that the billionaires all really are promoting Trump. I think the late night shows are really promoting Trump when they pretend to hate them. I think the program that Trump had, that reality TV program, was just a way to promote Trump as the only man that can save the world. Why? Because he's a big businessman and his dad was a billionaire, and I think they go back to the same area that Elon Musk went back to, and that's that Bavarian area. Trump. And we talked about that in many videos. All these guys are related. This is a Bavarian Illuminati plot to take over the world. To reset everything. Depopulate everyone. And start over with a government made in their own likeness. And they're going to start with their own small group of people and rebuild the world in their own image. And that's what they plan on doing. But according to the scriptures, at the end of the 1,000 years, the soldiers and armies of Gog of Magog, which again, that we've pointed out that in the Bible, that's a symbol for Og, king of Bashan. And he was the leader of giant, Og or Gog. He was from Mount Hermon, where the angels came down and made a plot to take over the world. They had relations to the daughters of men, and their descendants are now the leaders of this rebellion against God. They call them the Rephaim now, because they're spirits. They're the dead that they speak to, that they're getting these instructions from. So Dan made a pact with them, and Dan went to London. And Dan went to the Doniper and the Donister and the Dinaper and the Sweden and Denmark. And Dan went up there and started what we call the Druids. They worshipped a deity that in some places was called Woden, other places is Odin. The Lombards called him Godin. They took over Italy, the Lombards, and the church. And they replaced Theo, or Theos, with Godin, God. And that is their deity, which is Dan. They deified him. He wasn't the highest deity, but it's the one we hear about, because he was just Wednesday, Woden's day. Saturday, or Saturnalius, is Yahweh. They worshiped a higher deity than Woden, but they did certainly worship Woden. That was their tribal deity. And the whole world now is reading it in their scriptures. This is a plot. They started telling everybody that were Gentiles that they were evil unless they joined the church. And the word Gentile is what the Apostle Paul says, that the gospel was given unto the Gentiles. And when the Gentiles become come in, all Israel shall be saved, because the 10 lost tribes of Israel are the nations. So there's a lot we could talk about. We've talked about all this in prior videos. There's a whole bunch to this. We've got to weave our basket until we've achieved the final product and we see what we're doing here. And it's pretty obvious what they're doing, friends. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.